the digital realm. This is kind of our first like official meeting.
Okay, first of all, I think it looks like I had to click the go live. Didn't happen last time. So let's start this
That's
again.
all right.
Okay, so we are here for the first time live with Mat Marrash, who's a large format guru. Actually, I think I started large format watching your videos, so it feels weird to be like, maybe hosting with a bigger audience at least than you. But yeah, we're here to talk about large format. It's going to be all kinds of questions, beginners, intermediate, expert, whatever you want to ask. Matt and me, I think, follow the same passion for large format cameras, especially big monorails like CNR. So yeah, Matt, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is great. We followed each other online for so long, and even though we're half a world apart, we probably couldn't be more similar in terms of our views on large format and film photography in general.
Yeah. I think we were just talking a second before trying things out is we have to really agree to find something to disagree, to create a bit of a debate and not just be, accepting each other's terms with large format.
Yeah, there's just plenty of room for variance and opinion, and that's just one of the cool things. I think the film photography, especially, like you can really have a camera that matches your style and your personality, like how you like to shoot. You want a fancy, really glitzy camera with all the bells and whistles, or do you just want something that's quick and dirty? Open it up, get the shot done.
Yeah, I would like to know because I think I've never asked you like. I know your professor at university, if I'm not wrong, gave you a camera, got you sparked with interest with large format. But like, was it already photography something you were into? Were you studying photography, or did it happen, on a class you took one semester?
So it actually happened. Hopefully, my parents aren't watching, so they don't have to relive the harrowing tale. But I was I was in my super senior year. I was actually going to school for biology and chemistry, and I loved that. But I was also like getting like really burnt out with like the paperwork and stuff. And I took a summer trip to Japan, and I bought a DSLR to use it. That was like the whole thing. I came back with like 30,000 or so raw files. I took a digital 101 class, and that was like I was deep down that path. There was like no coming back, and I got kind of exhausted with that pretty quickly, and I found film photography. So this was by the second time I'd gone back to Japan. I went to some of the awesome camera dealers they had there, like Map Camera, and I can't remember any of the other ones I went to in Shinjuku, but they were just amazing, like the white glove treatment kind of stuff, like Japan Camera Hunter level of camera gear. And I was just like, whoa, what is this? This is a whole new world. And then the same professor that gave me the Eastman just kind of gave me access. So I had never done darkroom stuff, but I just dove into a Hasselblad, and he facilitated the space, and just like whenever I had questions, we would meet up and talk more about it. So that jettisoned me into film photography, and there was like no going back from there.
Yeah, well, can I ask what year was this? Because I have a feeling we weren't that far apart in terms of time.
Yeah, so the whole getting into photography thing was '08, and then I was like into film the end of '09, early 2010. So, it's really been like a decade that I've been into film photography and large format. They didn't. There wasn't too much time between the medium and the large format camera. It was
I think
very quick.
that's the funny thing. I was like we were saying at the beginning, it's so similar. I was supposedly going to lose my job. There's this thing here when a company's going like slow, they do like sort of like a chapter 11, but we had something like that in my work, and they gave me a week off of working, and a week not working, week working. And I was like, oh, what should I do? And I was like, I like photography. And that was like 2007, 8, which was the big crash. And the same thing, I found a Hasselblad. I got a Hasselblad, and then I went straight to medium format to large format. So it's pretty funny. It's almost identical.
Yeah, that's scary. It's almost like I bet, based on how both our stories happen around '08, I'm wondering if all of this madness of 2020 and beyond is going to churn out a whole new generation of film shooters and just like people just going off the rails creative wise.
I think so. Like I'm doing this little bingo like on the 31st, and it's funny because I asked people like to tell me what they thought about 2020, sort of like to get off their chest, and it's been pretty cool to read about it. It's a lot of sad stuff, but a lot of positive stuff. And most people were like, it gave me more time to get into film. And I think, like you said, there's going to be a whole new wave of generation of people that had the time to sit down and actually like really research about it, or buy their film stock, or maybe learn developing. And I feel like whenever things get a little bit more normal, I don't like saying like back to normal, because I don't think there'll ever be that back to normal, but there'll be a whole bunch of new people developing film, shooting film, enjoying film, and that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Oh man, looks like the chat's lighting up. I'm seeing a lot of familiar names that are showing up here,
Yeah.
either from my channel, from your channel. This is great. I just love the film photography community. You know, the fact that it's a huge international community, and that it's all pretty positive.
Yeah, that's what got me when I started doing shooting, learning from your videos. I remember the compensation videos with that old camera you had that probably was the first 8x10 and all that. Like I was
Yeah.
like, when I learned like that, I was like, okay, this stuff is really interesting, really helpful. How can I do my part? And I started with a forum, because that's what was popular in 2008, 2009. And then when YouTube was a little bit more popular, I was like, I could do videos. And then you start doing video and you realize it's not that easy.
No.
And then you're like, oh, editing takes a long time. And then you think like, oh, I make a mistake and there's 1,000 people that know more than I do. And it's pretty cool how at the end of the day, it all comes to be fun. At least I enjoy it tremendously. So it's pretty nice. How come you started back on YouTube? Because I have to say, we've missed you for the last decade, maybe.
Yeah, it's been like a decade, and you know, it's something I've tried to get back into multiple times, but it really was the lockdown and like having the time. And I've been working at a mom and pop camera shop forever, and I'm surrounded by this stuff. So I knew the video cameras, I knew what I needed to do to it, but I was always really scared of the editing software. It was one of
Yeah.
those things like I open it up and I'm like, not today, and you know, you minimize it again, and you try to do the lessons, and they're boring as all heck. And then I just finally said, no, you know what? I don't care how the quality is going to come out. I'm just going to do something to hold myself accountable. And this was probably February when I decided to do this. So it wasn't even like lockdown yet, but there was that collective kind of like, something's about to happen. And then I was like, you know what? No, I'm just going to reboot the channel and do it that way. And it was, it's easier now, 40 some odd weeks in, but like, it's a lot. I have mad respect for the amount of content you're producing. And now I kind of like doing it, I'm now starting to understand, oh, now I know why he's going this approach. And I know why he's putting out videos that are for somebody that's like brand new, because I was like, man, Nico really knows his stuff. Why is he doing a video on like how to load this? But the truth is there's so many new folks that are always coming into it. You really have to meet people where they're at, and where they're at is, here.
Yeah.
Watching content creators and how to.
No, the what happened to me, and this was something that happened to me in a trip to London with the folks from Negative Feedback. One of them hosted me in his house for a night, and he asked me like, where do you want to take your YouTube channel? I was like, I've never really thought about it like that, like I'm just doing stuff, having fun. But the how to do stuff has always been something I think is interesting, because when I got to YouTube, there was tutorials that were 25 minutes long. And it was like, oh, here's a wide looks f8. Like, this is how you load it. And it was in a dark room, filmed with like a cell phone camera or something terrible from 2000. And I was like, well, what if you just need to load it? Like, you want a 1 minute video or 2 minute video. So I do that part. And the funny thing is, the more you do it, the more the views and the stats show you, okay, it's really cool to talk about, like you and me will talk about large format cameras and things that are very niche, but like the general public really need this information, and maybe need it in a clean way, maybe with a good quality image and straight to the point, and that know what you're saying, that there's a lot of videos sometimes that, YouTube is open to everybody. So there's content that's great, there's content that's not so great. So that's what I approached. And now with Christmas, like, I have videos on Instax cameras, which are not my favorite, but I just like them and my kids like them. So I usually make a video with them, and they are always the top performers during Christmas. And it's like, oh, maybe I should do more Instax videos, like it's hard to balance it. So that's why I try to do, like, you do your film Fridays. I do my super film support on Mondays. And last week was like, when should you start the timer to develop? And I was like, I read the questions every day, and I'm like, okay, is that a question that's too simple? And I made the video. I've had like 10 people say, I've wondered when you should do it for 20 years. Like, thank you for answering this. So it's a bit of everything. It's fun.
Yeah, I want to thank you too for answering Amar's question in video format, because I had something happen to my my Gmail where all of my rules. So I usually have like the email questions sort and send to the right thing, and I dropped like 4 people's questions. I felt so bad, and I was like, huh, why does this sound so familiar? And I was like, oh, I literally just watched Nico's video on this. So thank you for answering Amar in time. I gave him my own take on it, but you did
No,
a
I
great
mean,
job.
and if you made your own video, I think it also would help, because the good thing about film, yes, there's the right way most times that's very similar, but there's always a different approach. Just like how you load film holders might be different. I always watch stuff like your large format stuff, because I'm like, I learned from reading probably large format forum, which is I think where we all learned back in the day. And now when I do it after 10 years, it's like, maybe I'm doing something wrong. So I watch your video. I'm like, oh, that's a good, you always learn something.
Oh yeah.
So you never stop, which is the fun part.
I think that is one of the fun parts about film photography, and especially like large format, is we don't do it because it's perfect. We do it because you eventually have to like the process. Like if you hate the process, you're going to find so many more convenient things, but it's imperfect, but then there's different approaches to it, and you're adding, every time you make a small little choice, it is going to affect your final product. But that, all those little errors that you always tend to do, that's your style at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think it's super fun. Like I've gathered way too much gear throughout the years reading through forums. And the worst part is you're in the US and you're working at a store, so you probably see things in front of you every day. Like here, It's so hard to get your hands on certain things and gear and like lenses, and like see them in the US and they're like Conus only, and you're like, oh, it's like, okay, only continental US, they're not shipping anywhere else. And then you start telling them, I remember the first time I bought on a forum in the US, I was like, oh, give me your bank account. And they were like, wait, bank account? I was like, okay, that's normal in Europe. Like I didn't know in the US bank accounts you don't want to share because there's fraud and all these problems. And it was like, okay, well, how do you want me to pay you? And they're like, no, you're Europe, I don't want to do anything with you. It's like, okay, no problem. But it's pretty cool. So question wise, I think we have like a zillion questions already, but
Oh no.
how are you finding the approach with people on your channel? Are you getting a lot of feedback in the sense of a lot of questions that you're, overwhelmed, or is it slowly picking up?
No, I think it's slowly picking up. So initially there weren't a lot of questions because they were just like these short little snippets of very beginner kind of stuff. But the more I go into certain topics, I have like a list. I have a master list, a little Excel sheet of all these little topics I want to do. Video kind of helps me refine and add to that list. And I think I even saw one of your videos where you're, celebrating a landmark of the channel, where like you're not sure at first if you can keep going, but then you keep going, and then more questions arise, and oh, that's a good idea for a video. This is a good idea for a video. So I don't think the topics are really ever going to stop, because there's always a new way to look at it, because you're not going to talk about something the same way as you learn and get better and do more of it. So I think there are some very heavily requested topics, like for example, I did those just little Christmas portraits with me, Lauren, and the dogs. That spawns so many questions about flash and reassess. Those are definitely going to be things that we tackle later on, but it's also like, ooh, there's a lot that goes in. There's a lot that goes into it.
I wanted to do my Christmas portrait this year on 8x10, positive film. I mean, not positive film, sorry, Polaroid film, and the new stuff, not the old stuff.
Yeah.
And and my wife's been like, oh, so what day? I'm like, okay, first of all, I have to set up the studio for picture taking and for video capturing, because I want to make a video on how I do it. And it's like, then I have to have the clothing for it. And then I have to have and it's like so much stuff I have to do. I'd be like, okay, let's wait till like after the actual holidays and then we'll do the video. Because it's like, right now it's like you're having dinner here, you're having lunch here, you're having like a celebration or present days. And like, I want to do that. And it's so like, people often forget, like I always think of the people that shoot with on digital cameras, no problem there. Is like they have it easy. They set their little camera on a tripod. They speak to another video camera. It's fine. But we're like walking around with a large format camera. You know what it is. You set it up.
Oh, yeah.
Do you film the whole setup? Do you film like a little detail of how I open the back? And I see Ben Horn. Ben Horn's like I don't understand how he does it. Like, he puts the camera ahead of himself and then walks with the backpack, and then he goes back and puts it in the back, and he does the walk. And I'm like, nobody can see like all the work it takes, and I can't do that. Like, I'm not doing large format outside unless I have an assistant. Like, no way I'll do that ever. It's so much work. And the flash, the same thing. Like, teaching flash and how you meter, and like it takes a while to explain, and then making it short and sweet, because YouTube content, preferred. Probably something easy is hard.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, it's never just how do you say it too, right? How do you say it in a way that's like digestible and doesn't open up 10 more questions? So you write a script, and then you practice it, and then you actually do the thing, and it doesn't line up with the script because it doesn't make sense to someone that maybe has never done Flash. So you have to also kind of like forget all of the things that you've learned along the way to try and inform how you make it. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, but it's fun because I don't think I was afraid that doing this sort of stuff would have me shooting less, but it's the exact opposite. I'm actually shooting more. I'm thinking more about it every time I shoot. So it's the community supportive.
It sets you back, like you said, unlearning to teach. And you teach workshops at the store, if I'm not wrong. I've heard you say that you teach like 101 digital stuff, like, the usual. Like, teaching requires you to really back up. And when I teach large format here in Spain. And like when I've been teaching, it's like, I always say, like, I'll teach you how to not make mistakes, or how to make all the mistakes, but then how to not make them. Like, I won't teach you the right way. I'll teach you all the wrong ways. So there's only one way. And so far, I've had like probably 60 students, something like that. Nobody's ever failed at a picture, which is like every time we develop in the workshop,
awesome.
and it's a day workshop, so we develop during the workshop. Every time I take out the film, I'm like, okay, who's going to be the one that made a double exposure, or make no exposure, or burnt the whole film because they didn't close the shutter, like all these things. And so far, it's been really good. It's so hard to unlearn and then teach them from the basis, and a lot of people come from different approaches. So like, they've never shot film, or they've shot film. Like, you and me got into 8x10 or big formats faster than we probably should have, and that's why I made the video the other day that I remember you mentioned on your live stream. It's like start with 4x5, get your muscle memory start, and then you get up to the bigger stuff.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, so question. I don't think we see a lot of questions. They're more talking about the CNR P2 gang, which we didn't make this purposely. So
no, we just love it.
Yep. Which lens are you rocking on the 8x10 right now?
So this is really a lazy setup. This is the exact same thing that we used for the portraits. So this is my the 480 8.4.
Oh, nice.
And I love it for portraits, but it's like, if you thought shallow depth of field was like a 50 millimeter 1.2, just throw it by 10 and try to do all the posing. Like, I've done it before, so it's not terrible, but it's terrible.
Yeah. I usually shoot portraits on a 360 just to try to help a little. And I had a project which required a lot of muscle. So what I did is I forced myself to shoot 100 portraits in 24 hours on 8x10. So I did that, and right now I could shoot like an 8x10 portrait in like a minute and a half from like having the camera set up to focus, load, and do all of that. And that's really helped a lot. I never got to the making the project because, life happened, but it was really fun. But yeah, 480, I've never had that lens. I've always wanted it. I remember the days when it was very easy to find and, not too expensive. But yeah, I have a 450 f9, and that's been my 400-ish lens when I need it.
I would say the 450 is so much nicer. It's way more compact. The difference between 8.4 and 9 is like whatever on this, on this format. Plus, you get up to 11x14 coverage on that one. I think this one would start to cut out at like 10x12, or I'm usually just so close it doesn't matter.
I mean, that's something a lot of people don't notice is like when you're doing portraits, like the lens could cover even if it doesn't cover because you're, extending the bellows.
It's so close.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's 450 I've used on 11x14. I have it up there. I didn't set it up. Thought it was already too much gear. But I've used the 240 f9, the Fuji non. That one that's pretty nice, the A, and that one covers 11x14 at a couple.
Wow.
And I've done like shots of my kids playing in the house with that, and it's been super cool. And the wide 240 on 11x14, and the lens is so small that it's been very, very fun. I love finding out that things that everybody told me wouldn't work. That's one of the best quirks of large format, is when you realize, oh, this lens does actually cover, and oh wait, it has some wiggle room. Because I feel
the effect of forum replies on, like, you always wonder. I guess this kind of gets into like the gatekeeping thing, right? But like, I always wonder how many people like didn't do it just because they saw people like arguing on forums with each other or telling them that they couldn't do something, when actually you should probably just try it, because it's probably
the problem is when you can't get the stuff in your hands, like when you're like preparing an amount of gear, and you're like, okay, I want an 8x10, I want a 300 millimeter, and like I want a 5.6, and then you're like, oh wait, this one they say has 482 millimeter circle, and the other one has 2 more, so I should get the 2 more. You're like, and then at the end of the day, you're like, just get the one you find and just shoot it. You'll be fine. But that's something with the movements. Don't you find that people ask you like, oh, I don't know, Intrepid camera doesn't have plus minus 40 degrees shift, and you're like, oh, or tilt, and you're like, okay, but the Chamonix has it. You're like, you're never going to use more than 5 degrees, 10 degrees at the most. I had that problem when I started. I looked at all the specs and it was like, oh wait, they're not all perfect. Maybe I shouldn't get this one.
Drowning yourself in that minutia. Of course it's fun. We're all like satisfying that consumer need. Like, oh, but I want to make sure I get the best one, and I'm not. I think the one phrase I hear the most is like, I don't want to be limited, and it's like, you're limited right now. You don't have a camera right now. On paper, the stuff that I started with was, and then I look back at the photos and I'm like, I was making such good photos not knowing a darn thing. And having gear that it shouldn't be able to work, and it's just get out and shoot. It's like every time I now feel myself doing that with anything, I'm just like, no, I'm going to spend it on film and we're going to go out and shoot, and I'll be much happier.
Yeah. Did you end up getting that slide E100 8x10?
I did put in the order for some. It's going to come in because I knew Keith had that big order of, I think it was like 10 Portra. So that order came in first, and there was more of it. But then the E100 order should be coming in, I think, January or February. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I just got a box of the 4x5, so I'm going to be shooting the small stuff first and see if I can make it to the big stuff. It's just you can't even find it in Europe, so it's going to be hard to find. We had a couple of questions at the beginning, which if you feel like we can answer, and this, a funny thing is, it's not actually large format. And this is another fight I've seen on forums, is like, when is it large format? When is it sheet film? The roll film, which to me, anything with bellows kind of gets there into a little bit, like, not the RZ67 would be a large format, but you know what I mean. What do you think about the Panoramic 617 Shenhao? I've never used one. Have you gotten your hands on one?
I have seen a Shenhao. I've seen a Dai. I've seen a Photoman, which is like they call it like the hobo style camera.
Yeah.
And then I've seen the Lindelof 617 S3, which is probably the nicest. But those, I consider those large format because you're doing things differently. There's nothing that's convenient in the camera.
Yeah.
I think as soon as you strip away that convenience, it's large format. There's there's a Hasselblad that I shot with, and I couldn't believe I actually hated something about a Hasselblad. I had a chance to play with one of those flex bodies, which is like the movements one. That was worse than large format because it's
tiny.
It has its own order of operations.
Yeah. Yep. Have you ever shot the super wide with a little ground glass on the back?
I've never shot the super wide with the ground glass. We do have an old super wide, the original one at Midwest right now, which is like the uncoated Biogon, which has like a really dreamy chrome look. That thing's pretty cool, but no, I've never used one
I
with the
took
ground
it
glass.
out once, and I had like a little ground glass adapter and my viewing hood and stuff, and I was shooting something, and I was like, why am I using this when I have a 4x5? Like, it's like, and I know the Biogon is amazing, but it was like the amount of work and the amount of everything that I have to do to shoot every shot on 6x6. I might as well be shooting, you know, something a little bigger. So that's always funny. Yeah, I haven't shot the 617. I do have to say, when you're talking about the panoramic cameras, I like the idea that you can change the lenses. Like, I know the Linhof, you can change the lenses on the premium ones, but the lenses are worth a car. So I like the idea of the Shenhao because you can change the lens. You can have your 4x5 kit and your 6x17. And Nick Carver does this. Like, you know, he can take off the lens. You can shoot 6x17. You can compose shot by shot, which is amazing because some of them, like the Linhof, sometimes you can't remove the back and the roll. So I like that idea. So if I had to get into a 617, I probably would go the Shenhao, like kind of like bellows and lens board route, because you have that flexibility instead of shooting 3, and it's 4 shots. Yeah, I made a mistake on the video when I talked about 617, said 3. But you have 4 shots, but might as well, if you can, shoot 2 and then shoot 2 later down the road if you need it. So that's what I would get.
I've always been intrigued by that crazy Shenhao camera. I don't even know if they still make it. They made a 6x24 for a while because it's absurd, and I think it's like 2 shots per roll.
3. I've shot the Photoman 624. I
Nice.
had a viewer or follower, and back before YouTube, came to visit me with a Photoman 624. And it was 3 shots.
Whoa.
But that thing was so big. My problem was when we developed it, it didn't fit in any of my sleeves because, of course, it's so big. It was like 4 shots of 6x6.
yeah.
I was like, where do I put this? I was like, I would never shoot this unless you're doing like the postcards. You know, those postcards when you go to a city, it's like the Empire State Building, like skyline or something. Like that's what they probably would shoot on. But like, I never imagined myself shooting something that wide. Like 612 is my approximately my longest. And actually, I have a 410. Have you shot 410, or you do the double side film holder?
I have a couple broken slides turned into 4x.
Yeah.
You know, when I was looking at it and really intrigued by it, there weren't as many kits that are out there, and now you can like go on eBay and there's folks that make adapters, and it's super easy to do.
Yeah, the 4x10. I got the film holders that I showed you before, the Lotus, and what I did is I created. I'm a carpenter, sort of by trade, and I created like a 8x10 film holder that was hollow in the middle. Because one thing I noticed is everybody was like, "Oh yeah, 4x10, you do the broken dark slide, you shoot one way and then the other way." But I was like, wait, you lose the circle of the lens being in the middle. You have to like either raise it or lower it to get the best of it, and then maybe it doesn't cover and all that. So I was like, I'm gonna make it in the middle. So I made a piece of wood that actually had like a hole in the middle, and it was super cool. I shot a couple things, then I don't know, I disposed it somehow for some reason, and I haven't shot it again. But it was pretty cool. And contact prints on 4x10 look pretty good.
Nice. So let me see. Oh, I see some more familiar names in the chat. Amanda's here. So she's I think Amanda, you have a 6x17, right? She's got the SWC. She's a hardcore film shooter. I've known her for forever, since before I moved to Columbus. So she's a pretty cool gal. If you haven't checked her workout, Nico, it's I think it's Amanda Fiction on Instagram. Instagram in the chat.
I don't know if they'll let her do. Maybe she can put her name on Instagram, like her handle.
Yeah.
She does have the SWC, so that already makes her like an immediate person to check, because I sold mine sadly, and I really miss that camera. Anything you've ever sold, Matt, that you regret like almost instantly?
Yeah, I have a cell regrets, and I regret it so much. It's over here. I'm also going to change the exposure on my camera. It's bugging me. It's too bright.
Oh yeah, we have Tariq here, which I met thanks to you. So Tariq shoots 4x5, black and white and color, but he does amazing studio work. You guys should check it out. And it's Tariq Teray. I think Matt's mentioned him in previous videos too, and made actually some videos with him too. So yeah, Tariq's, I'm a big fan of that. So yeah, Amanda. Well, if not later, drop your handle and I'll see if I can follow you if I don't already. She says she has the Fuji. It uses a ton of film. You really need to have it level to get a good image. Yeah, that's something you for sure have to have. I have the wide looks, and like anytime you unlevel it, it just goes quirky everywhere. So I would guess the same thing with 617. Oh, Mark says there's vertical sleeves. At that time when I was shooting 624, I was not expecting to shoot. I shot one roll. So you were showing that's the 121?
Yes, so I sold this one, and I was I regretted it because I bought, I think I've got that one up here. Yeah, I got the 150. Here, I'll change my camera. The 150 Super Simar XL, and I love this lens. The only problem is it's not as hyper wide as the 121. So I ended up rebuying this guy, and it's fine because this lens is I've than $300-400 for what you're getting out of it. But it's a specialty lens. I probably use it for like less than 5% of all of my shots. But like when you want that just stupid wide perspective and you don't care about the corners, like it's just fun.
Yeah, I have the Nikkor version of that. So I've been shooting with the 120, the 120, and that one was one of those lenses that I read it wouldn't cover like the whole spectrum. I think it's actually here. Let me see. Yeah, this is the 120. Let me see. I'll do angle 2 too. This one, it's the 120 f8 Nikkor super wide, and this one they say it won't cover like 8x10, but it covers 8x10, and actually with like probably 10 to 15 millimeter rise or fall. So don't be too scared. I actually had I don't know how to say this, Wehman, like the
Wehman.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. I had that one, and the rails came in the shots. Like it was so wide, the bed of the camera would appear in the shot, which was kind of strange and cool.
Yeah, but one also too for something like 6x10, that's a really nice wide perspective. I mean, I've even seen people do really good work on 8x10 with the 110 XL. Sure, you're getting like a a little bit of clipping, but there's so few shots where I'm just like showing the whole the whole frame, unless it's
the 110 I have seen the little bit of clipping, and that 150 you have is something I want. I've been wanting the 150 wide. I actually shot the G Claron, the 150 f9, and that covered 8x10, which I was pretty impressed. I actually still have to do a video on how it renders. Of course, there's some vignetting and all that, but it wasn't that terrible that I would not say like, hey, you want a real cheap 150, like get this, shoot it, and then you can crop it, not to a 5x7, but maybe to like a 7x9 or something like it. And you still get a huge piece of film with a 150 perspective. So yeah, I want the 150 you own, but I'm not probably going to find that anymore.
It's getting crazy. I'm really glad. It's one of those purchases that it was a really stupid idea to pick it up at the time, but I'm glad I did because it's like doubled, almost tripled in price since then. So it's just, that's the one thing with large format is very few of these pieces of glass are being manufactured new. So, we have a fixed stock we're working from, and I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where there's going to be more people shooting than we're shooting it at its peak. The stuff's always going to be out there, but maybe it's in somebody's, cabinet or Tupperware storage. Yeah.
What lenses do you, apart from the Kook, Kook, I think you would say, which lenses do you think they're still manufacturing? I know the XXLs, they make like every now and then they make a small run. They make the 770 and stuff like that. But do you know of any other lenses they're still making?
Yeah, you already mentioned the Kook. That's probably that might be it, because we've got Kook, Nikkors are done, the Fujinons are done. There might be some process lenses that are still made, or that are still like as new old stock, like clean looking like Rotagons and just like process design lenses that are just barrels. But and then there's those special run lenses. Folks that they produced a limited run of that brass lens. It was sort of thing.
Oh yeah, the one that he made in. Oh, now you're gone. Okay, now you're back. Do you ever have problems when you do live streams?
The last one I had, something was going on with the.
Let me see. Okay, reconnection, pause, crop a little bit. Now you're coming in really clean. Okay, let me now just lower you here.
Okay.
Okay, I think that should work. Let's see if I can start the transition and see if that will connect. And I think it's working already.
Cool. Oh yeah, looks like the feeds popped back in.
Yeah, there we go. Now it's live on YouTube. Sorry guys, connection crashed somehow along the way. I saw you were answering David Palermo about film sensitivity.
Yes. So testing film is I think probably the hardest videos for me to execute at this time are film testing and lighting. And it's really because you can get technical about both of them. I guess the third one would be depth of field. Those three are topics that can it's like rabbit holes within rabbit holes that it opens up when you get to that topic, that I want to do it right, but at the same time, I want to explain what you need to know out of it, and what you need to know out of it is different for each photographer, because some photographers, like, they will go as technical as possible, and they're doing like line charts and stuff, and then I'm at the point where I started super technical about it, and now it's like I just know what kind of works for me. And it's almost like I treat it like cooking now. So I don't want to be overly technical with that part of the process, but I understand that some folks do. So to be a really hard balance. What do you think on testing film?
I've never tested film for myself. Like, one of the things I always heard when I was online, it was like, oh, first thing you do is you got to test like you're developing to be optimal. Like, you want to know if your base ISO is 64, if it's 80, or 100 or 125, depends on the film and the developer and the water. And like, I never found a good resource online. And that's something you just shared. And I actually opened first thing when I saw you clicking that. I was like, okay, I got to see this. But I found what works with me, just same thing. Like, sometimes when you want to teach something, and teach, I'm going to air quote teach, because I think we are both people that are passionate about large format, but maybe we don't have a degree on certain things that maybe would help.
No.
So like, if I'm going to talk about optical performance of a lens being, a triplet or whatever, I'm just basically read something 5 minutes before, or maybe a month ago or 2 years ago, and trying to remember. So it's really hard. And there's so much you can do with the resources we have. Like, I don't know if my lenses are actually set up correctly. Like, I don't know if the front element should have maybe a little shim and it would make that sharper. You know what I mean? So it's like, lens that work, they work. I don't touch them. Lens that doesn't work, either I'll sell it because I'm not sure if it's my problem, or if I think it's wrong, maybe I could find someone. But it's so complicated to know exactly what you are facing when something's wrong. Like, same with developing film. Sometimes you get like a light leak and you go nuts. Like, finding a light leak on an 8x10 can be like expensive, time consuming, like frustrating. And then like teaching someone how to find a light leak is like, okay, show me the pictures, show me the negative. Like, and it happens in all films, like large format or medium format or 35 is like, you have a light leak. Okay, where could it be from? So was it the lab? Was it that? It's really hard. I try not to go too deep into certain ends, and maybe people can say superficial, maybe that I don't know about it, but like, I'd rather fail at being like, I don't really know to teach, so why could I teach? But then the people that know how to teach it are not online or not on YouTube. So it's like, I hope you fill in that gap, basically.
Oh, it's tough, man. Like, and because especially with testing film, I try to be as honest as possible with testing film, and especially depth of field. I've probably rewritten scripts for those like 5 or 6 times, because there's always something new that I'm discovering myself. So like, of course you read it, but then you like do it, and then you oh my gosh, no, I have to include this now. So even done it, you're halfway through shooting a video, and then you forget to include this thing that's just been obvious to you for the last decade that you've been doing, but you have to explain it, because if you don't explain it, it just opens up this, oh, well, do you do this? and why did, so it's tough to really illustrate it, and it's where this is why we have production teams for
Yeah.
bigger operations. Yeah.
No. At the end, it's happened to me that I prepared a video. Like I did one with 6x12 lenses. I mean 6x12 format shooting on a 4x5 using 6 different lenses. You have a shot per lens to show the differences between how wide can you go and how long can you go. And I get to I pack the bag, I go outside, and I never do scripts, so I might be like the totally wrong guy. I never script anything. And like I go there, I set up my camera, I start shooting, I get the first lens that's the widest, it's a 72 XL, and I'm like, oh wait, I don't have I don't have a cable release in this trip. Like I totally forgot my cable release. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna continue. Like I'm just gonna make it. Like and I explain like, hey guys, I mean, and I think to a certain extent, it doesn't have to be. I think we put our pressure on ourselves to be perfect, and I think it's important to be like, oh, I forgot my cable release. I'm gonna still try to show you guys, and if it really comes out terribly, I'll do a second version of this video or something like it. And I think we all probably have videos that we've shot and had to stop and then reshot again. But like, if I can still try to show that I make mistakes, like you make mistakes, like Tariq makes mistakes, like everybody does these things, it's good.
Tariq doesn't make mistakes. No,
I probably does, but he probably doesn't show it. But like those things really bug you. And when you're making a video, I like to show that I'm just as human as everybody else. Like I make a mistake, I'm like, when I'm editing it, I could put a little clip if I see it, but like if I'm not, sometimes you don't even notice when you edit and you're like, okay, something came out, it's not perfect. But you're like, that's where the comment section is for. Leave a comment, I'll pin it. Whoever is like, Nico, you're such a, disaster, I'll be like, I'll pin your comment because you're absolutely right. Like this to me is more like the community fun part. Like I don't want to make a Bible of film, I want to make a community of film.
That's definitely a good point, because if it was like the definitive, like, why would you watch it, right? Because maybe there's nothing you can like pick up or add to it. So in the comments, people often add their own little twist. I kind of the comments to be like kind of the same reason that people would go to a group shoot or a workshop. You're not necessarily going to like make award-winning art. You're going to network. You're also going to see those little things that one photographer does that, oh, maybe I should try this. Like you're picking little things along the way.
Oh yeah, like I still remember the second time I went to Photokina, which sadly is canceled. I shared a room with a video editor, and I've been doing like YouTube videos for 2 years, and I had 5 minutes with him editing a video and learned what I hadn't learned in 2 years. And it was like, oh man, like I wish, like you're saying, like if I went out shooting in Ohio with you and I see how you set up, I'd be like, oh wait, that's how you put your cable release? Why? Like one of the questions I always find is like, where do you set your cable release? Pointing up, pointing sideways, pointing down? Like which one's the correct way? It's like, depends on how you shoot. If you shoot from behind your camera, maybe you want it one way. Maybe if you shoot from, if you're a tall guy, you want it upwards. If you're a short guy, maybe you want it downwards. Like all these things are so fun to learn. And that's why I've just embraced it. Like, it's like, guys, if you have any comments, I love to hear you guys. And like, I have a densitometer, and then maybe that's something you've already used and know. Like, I've bought 3 densitometers throughout these years. I still have never used one of them. And I decided in a video, I'm like, I don't know if I should just make a video on like, I have these 3 machines. I have no clue to how to start, and someone will give me a good a resource, and I'll be like, okay, let's learn together, kind of thing, because it's hard.
Sure. No, it's super hard. I think my densitometer is sitting in here somewhere, just like gathering the dust cover on it, so it's probably gathering dust. But yeah, it's like it's one of those. I find a large format specifically has a lot of tools like that there's they're like one-time purchases. Like you buy it because to do it this way, or you think you're like looking for an excuse. You're looking to buy something that's going to make you a better photographer instead of just like going out and experiencing and shooting. And I feel like for me, it's like the densitometer was one of them, or I could like rent one, it would be fine. And then the other one I considered like that is the viewing filter, that little black and white filter that you flip. Yeah, like but once you get black and white, you're like little trinket. So there's so many of those little things, and I think when when we encounter so different from what we know, we want to buy the little things that make us feel better, like justify the purchase or feel like it's going to help. But usually it just complicates things because we're adding extra.
Yeah. What would you say are the best purchases you've made in terms of like helpful for your large format?
The most boring thing in the world, but I love it to death. Actually, it's all grip gear because issues. This was probably when I started going down to, it was like 2015. I was having really bad time with shakiness in my pictures, and then I picked up Cinar pan tilt head, and it's stupid. It's not stupid, but it's just like it's such a small thing, and you wouldn't think that it would help, but just such a rock solid little tripod head, and then from there, adding my quick release. I have that the NovaFlex Q. Actually, I'm gonna go grab it. I've got the Nova. I'll go grab the NovaFlex, but it's just like all stuff that prevents shake, because that was what was frustrating me for a while. I was getting better at acting, and I had the film down, but I was making it into the field in these longer exposures, and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't sharp, and it was all in the head amount of stability. And once I got that solid, it didn't matter anymore.
Yeah, that's something funny because when I bought my 8x10, not the Cinar, but like the Chamonix, the base is really wide. Like the whole bottom of the camera is like basically like a film holder size base. And I was like, okay, I want a quick release. And I remember going to large format forum and someone was like, well, you never want to put a quick release because you're going to go from like this big to like this tiny. And that's just going to be a point of wobble. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I have the Gitzo 1570, I think it's called, like the one that has like the big wide.
Oh, is that the three-way?
Yeah, the three-way. I also same thing. No ball heads, always three-way. Like I was like, that's what I'm gonna use. So far, I would say like that saved my life. Like there's no wiggle like at all. Like the base is like wide and fat and like the same thing. And I've seen Ben Horn when he's using his camera. Sometimes he's like, oh, the best thing I could buy for the Intrepid 8x10 was like a big base that held the camera. And that's when I find there's the problem between being very lightweight and being too lightweight is the wind or, any breeze will move the camera. So I always try to find that recommending is like the balance between not going to break your back and not going to be like, feather light wind blowing camera.
Yeah, so I'm going to go get my quick release, but there's some really good conversation going in the comments. I guess some folks have some questions about shutters. Do you have a place in the EU you would recommend for getting shutters calibrated?
Nope, not here. Not that I know.
Okay. In the US, there's a few places, but all the places I know, no place does every single shutter because they're all a little bit different. Probably the most reliable place I found is this little shop I think they're in Charlottesville. It's called Pro Camera. Not Pro Cam, they're different, but Pro Camera. I think they're in Charlottesville, but they're a good one. It's a smaller shop, so there's like one or two folks that are working on your stuff. Repairs during the holiday season are terrible. They take a long time, but I think it's definitely worth it.
I do know that the guy from I think he's called LA Flex or La Flex, who's the guy that's doing like Linhof stuff. I know he does shutters, and he's been doing the Compor shutters that usually Linhof lenses come in, and he's been doing stuff like that. In Europe, it's just like I've done a lot of work with Camera Rescue and the Camera Store guys. Actually, gonna move over and work for them and with them in summer 2021. But like I know they don't offer it to customers, so it'll be like if they're buying in and some shutters has a problem, they'll fix it, put it on the store. So it's not an option to be like, oh, can you degrease it? And someone was saying here, I went out yesterday when the shutter froze when it's -10. Like when you're shooting, at least I've never shot in ultra cold, but what I've heard is you got to remove all the grease from the lens shutter, shoot in the cold weather, and whenever it warms up again, you can re-grease the shutter, which is what I've heard. And some grease also works for very cold environments, kind of like the water, what is it called? The water cooling, cooling liquid. There's some for like freezing temperatures and some for like tropic temperatures. It's kind of the same thing for shutters.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed a couple of my shutters. They're not fully seizing up, but they definitely like. I want to keep them. I don't want to keep them in the cold long because I'm going to start losing my slower speeds. Funny enough, it's the newer copal shutters that are like that. So I'm guessing it's whatever grease they've got in those that makes them extra snappy at the fast shutter speeds. But then my old beater lenses or my old this old Linhof Select shutter, this thing's a tank. I hate its operation because it's like so hard to get to stuff, but it's like it's super solid.
That's cool. Yeah, I've heard about the copal shutters, and one thing that a lot of people also don't know is copal shutters sold with a plus minus 30% factory tolerance. So there was a paper, and I actually have the scan somewhere saved because Cat Labs sent me it because he had it. And it came like you would buy a shutter and it would come with a paper from the factory saying plus minus 30% is within factory tolerance. So it's like, okay, and that's when you find like Ken Rockwell. And one of the things I love from Ken Rockwell, which there's a lot of things to love and maybe not like so much, but one of the things I love is he always would say, like, if you're shooting size, which he loves, is like you want to calibrate your shutter to know exactly what 1/125th is or 1/50th is or 500th is, because usually the faster ones are not that fast. And, when you need to nail your exposure so much, and David, who's here asking about how he wants to get the optimal ISO, you want to first maybe calibrate the speeds to know exactly what speeds you're shooting at, and then also work on the ISO. It's a balance of things.
Yeah, and if you're shooting like black and white negative, I think it's of course less impactful than if it is something like a positive process, or let's say you're doing something with crazy low dynamic range, like you're going to be doing plates or the new Polaroid materials or that crazy RA4 reversal process I've been playing with. Like those have such a small dynamic range that even if you feel like you're on your A game, those materials will show you everything that's weird along the way.
Yeah, the RA4 reversal is something that I'm scared to get into because I can see you and like other people, like Camera Dactyl, Ethan's been doing it too. And I think is Joe Moses, if I'm not wrong, the one that has the channel with the typewriter.
Joe Van Cleef.
Yeah, Joe Van Cleef. Like, it's like, I want to get into it, but I feel like it's such a rabbit, and I don't have the power of strobes. So it's like, I either going to have to shoot a strobe 25 times and do a still subject, or I'm like, okay, maybe I'll wait for some other time in my life where I can do that.
It's definitely a lot, and it is more than just a standard rabbit hole, because like it feels like you're doing wet plate and color printing, and if either one of those processes are already frustrating to you, this is just going to compound so many things. And it's like, some folks are it's, again, you can get really technical about it or you can have fun with it. So it's a balance. Like I go as technical as I need to until I start getting consistent results, and then I start to like do my thing. And if it changes, so be it. Like that's why I do, film photography. It's not 100% perfect. If it was, like, I would just bring a digital camera and like mess around with the colors in Photoshop, but this fun to me.
Yeah, which one thing we were speaking before, and I forgot to mention, is you had that barbershop pictures that you did, I don't know how many years ago, which I really,
forever ago.
Yeah, I really, really liked. And one thing that I also remember you shooting, and it was pretty cool, was that FK infrared. Do you have more stuff of that?
Yes.
Have you gotten your hands on more infrared film, or is that something you found? I don't even know there's still available infrared film nowadays in large format. I would say there isn't.
No black and white. No, there's none. But I do have some of the FG still. I've got about 70 sheets left, and I also have some HIE, which is somehow, it's 10 years older than my FG, but it's somehow better. Like that Kodak stuff was just magic. So it's one of those that I need to shoot it soon because the fog is really starting to like creep up on it even more than when I first got it. But it's like, it's that challenge. This film isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
But you also want to get like good work out of it too. Yeah. So you get more nervous with each shot. Yeah.
Is there any film stock apart from those two that you have saved that you're like, okay, this is getting old, but like you said, like I got to shoot something good with it?
There is. I almost feel like I need to like, because my freezer's in here too. I feel like I should just get them out and show the folks at home. But no, they'll take my word for it. I've got some Tech Pan, which is just like, I don't even know what to do with it, but like I want to do something cool with it.
Yeah,
that stuff's crazy.
I bought like the infrared color stuff before the, when Richard Moss was like doing, like it just barely was even like a blog post somewhere. And I remember buying it. I was like, I want to shoot 617 with this. And I bought it. I stored it. I didn't even have the camera. And then like by the time I had the means to do it, I was so scared of screwing up and the price had gone so high that I just sold it. And I was like, I'll do something else.
Yeah, it's such cool stuff. But like, I don't know, you also can't like lament it for too long. And that's the other like thing that's hard to do. You start accumulating, you either or film, or if it's really bad, you accumulate both, and then you have to like start looking at it. So this year I started filling up the freezer that I thought was going to last me for years way too quickly. So I start going through it and looking and like, okay, I should probably shoot this because it's the oldest. And then I got to start shooting my fresh stuff. But do I have a project for the fresh stuff? So you're always like trying to figure out how to optimize that. Let's see, who's got... Oh, someone's saying, oh, do they have, so infrared, one of those like little tech arguments, is there still infrared in smaller formats? Yes, but I definitely would argue that they don't look the same. So I think the Rolly IR is probably the best stuff that you can get in 4x5 and smaller right now. And it's probably because Ilford has their SFX, but nobody has anything that goes like, even the FG stuff, I love it, but it doesn't go as deep as like HIE or the Kodak stuff would go. So you can get your hands on HIE, even over 25, 30 years old. It's probably going to be fine if it was cold stored. That stuff is amazing.
Yeah, I've never tried any of that. No infrared at all. So I can't help you. But I do remember your pictures with, all those trees that would hang almost to the floor with a ghost. Like, it looks like a ghost image so much.
That Spanish moss, I have to go back down to the southeast of the U.S. Yeah, so Georgia, Florida.
It's called Spanish moss?
Yep.
I don't think I've ever seen that in Spain, which is funny.
There's a weird name stuff like that.
Yeah.
Here, I'm sure it's when they first went over to that area and settled it. So, let's see. Somebody is asking. Oh, Mr. Dennis, thanks for reminding us. Yeah, I forgot. Tritran is making his custom soft focus lens.
Yeah, that's the one I was mentioning.
Pretty crazy.
Which one did you mention before then? Because they kind of like cut up.
There was. Oh yeah, there was that group buy where people were pre-ordering and they were doing a copy repro of a Dallmeyer 3D,
yes,
I think it was.
Yes. Now I do remember.
Yeah.
They did a group buy for that. That someone like technical engineer, like optical engineer, made those lenses. Yeah. I do know. Yeah. I mentioned the Tran in the news. That's why. That's the one I thought you were saying because the audio cut for a second. I was like, oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I mean, I do wish there was some more lenses. I do want to have one of those Kook before. I actually have some extra Copal 3 shutters because I know they don't have so many of them. So like you can buy like on a shutter or source your shutter. So I've always had an extra shutter somewhere to maybe, buy one at some point. I have shot the soft one, like the 4x5 version. I think it's a 229.
The PS one? Yeah.
And it's amazing.
Oh, I would love to try that one. I've seen 2 of them come into Midwest Photo, and I've regretted it each time. The XVA, like the newest one, the convertible, those lenses are crazy. I mean, I'll look at the price of one of those and balk at it instantly because it's so expensive. But if you get one that has that second set of front and rear elements, you literally have 5 focal lengths in a lens. So like you could backpack with up to 8x10, and I think a few of those combinations cover ultra large format. So like you could have a portable 11 kit, which is just like that's what makes that kit so special.
Yeah, no, I've had my like clip by now a couple of times, and it's been like I should not do that. But I have tried the soft one, and it was super, super fun. And I actually, this was a friend of mine that owns it, and he shot a portrait of me, and I have it. Like, we used the Hayland, split grade system with analyzer.
Oh,
And that thing was magic. We just like, you do the analyzer and analyzed it, and the first print was like, okay, that's it. We're done. We don't have to do any other prints. Like, it was
wow.
just perfect. And the softness,
Awesome.
and I think soft focus is something that like you don't always want, but when you like see it in a couple of pictures, especially portrait, it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it has a very characteristic look, and I think the soft focus, helps with those processes that can really, really be punishing in that dynamic range. They bring up the shadows, they veil the highlights, and every one of them has their own unique. That's probably the hardest thing about it too. Is like, there's no library where you can just like, oh, I want to try a cook today. I want to try a Dallmeyer today. I want to try a Boole projection lens today, right? There's just like, you have to source it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I have a soft focus for the Yarb Z, and I still haven't even shot that. So hopefully I'll get my hands to that one day. Do you
Oh, so,
tell me,
yes.
sorry.
Oh, yeah, no. So, Nico in the chat has a question. So, who's your favorite famous large format photographer? I think that's a really cool question.
You go first as you're the guest here, so.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure. So, like, famous large format. I have some favorite large format photographers. Um, if you mean like a celebrity that shoots large format, that would be kind of an interesting one because I know like Edward Norton did like 8x10 Polaroids and stuff. Um, but I'm gonna go with non-famous because I think it's cooler when photographers for the first time. So one of my favorite photographic couples that were large format and ultra large format shooters. I'm probably going to butcher the name, but it's Jay Scheinman and Lindemann. They were a husband and wife photographic couple, and they were really, really prolific in like the mid 80s, early 90s, and they still have like kind of active Flickr account. They have some really interesting work, and it was like mature and banal. They even have a series called Non-Famous People. It's really cool.
That's cool. I've I went to see the new topographics exhibit here in Bilbao,
Oh,
and I saw the actual contact prints on 8x10 and all this stuff. And I have to say that really, I bought the book for like $20 because that's what it was worth there, and then it's gone crazy on price. And like the photographers in
mm-hmm.
that book really made, like, I've always liked architecture, so like building photography, stuff like that has always been very much what I like. So like Nicholas Nixon and his early work, and then he has this book which is Close Far. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but like he's got one that's like really up close, and it's 11 by 14 shots, and they're actually contact prints of 11 by 14. The book is 11 by
Oh,
14, and the book is pretty cool. I really like his long shots, so the architectural stuff. I do know him as a person has become supposedly not the nicest guy on earth, so I don't really like the person, but his work I do like. So architectural stuff like that, the people in that book I really like. Stephen Shore was like one of the reasons I got into 8x10, and I was like, I should shoot
mm.
everything color 8x10 till you realize how much money it's worth and how much like how bad as a photographer I could be. And I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to be Stephen Shore. Someone were saying Alex Soth. I do like Alex Soth. I do find that I don't like all of his work, but some of it I have enjoyed. But yeah, mostly 8x10. Like I really like 8x10 stuff and like buildings, contact prints, and that's when I found the beauty of contact prints. Like I bought an 8x10 enlarger. And I was like, oh, I'll enlarge 8x10. And then I was like, the moment I got it, I was like, I enlarged like 2 pictures. I was like, I don't really like enlarging 8x10. I think I'm happy with the contacts only. And that's when I previously had gotten the 11x14. And that was my dream. Like, I want to do 11x14 contacts. That would be my day.
Ah, nice. So Karsh was brought up in the comments. I had the pleasure of going down to the Karsh exhibit. It was a traveling exhibit in the U.S. And I went. Tariq and I went down. It was in Cincinnati, which is only about an hour from Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
So we went down there and looked at all these contact prints. And there was like 2 or 3 times where like security had to like, kind of like
back
push
you
us
off.
away
Yeah.
because we were both like almost like our noses were almost touching the contact prints because they were just like gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's just one of the scans and the scans of pictures of the scans online, but there is nothing like seeing those contact prints in real life. And it's like, even when you don't like a photographer's genre, you just like a photographer. I think that's one of the cool things about photography. It transcends the style or anything. You love what content is in there. So of course Karsh's portraits are after hit, and even when you look at the ones that like maybe you didn't know, you're just like, this is amazing. I don't even know who this is in the frame, but like it's so amazingly done. So that was like a mind-blowing show. And then at the same time, they also had this collection of other North American photographers in the turn of the 20th century who were still shooting like autochromes. So if you've seen like old autochromes, they're like super dim. You have to like put a hood over and look at it, but just like the original color process, that stuff's just crazy.
Yeah. No, the people are naming people here that they like, and there's a lot of these that I enjoy, but like you said, like when you see those contact prints up close, like the buildings, like I remember seeing those architecture buildings, and the buildings were so small inside the frame, but like you said, you get your head in there and you look at the like minuscule details and the tones, and you're like, damn, like I should just contact print every single picture from now on. Like I don't want to scan them, I don't want to enlarge them, I just want to do contact prints.
Yeah, you're like, man, I'm doing too much pixel peeping. I should probably just put contact prints out.
Yeah, and there's this photographer on Facebook. I think you probably know him as Steven DiRado or something like that.
Yeah.
Who does amazing work. Like his work and his body of work is so good and so big. Like he's been, I know Daniel Duarte. You probably follow him somewhere. Like he's told me about him. Like this guy will barely like sometimes feed himself. I'm not saying he doesn't feed himself, but like he will prioritize film and paper to like eating. And he's got like a series on like 90s like shopping malls and stuff like this, which is like this punk rock shopping mall. There's like these cop pictures, and he's shooting with a 4x5 and a 90mm, and it's amazing. Like stuff like that. Just, I mean, I think probably if I have to shoot like what format do I like most photographers, it would be large format. Like 35 medium format, I love stuff, but like when I see large format, it's like just a different game.
Hey, so I see some more familiar names in the chat. Hey, Jess Hobbs, it's cool to see you. She brought up Polly Chandler, which I had the honor of meeting her not once but twice at maybe it was just once, but at Photostock up in Michigan. It was that's Bill Schwab's annual event that unfortunately was canceled this year, but I can't wait to go back up there and meet up with those guys. But Polly went one year. Every year at Photostock, there's a print swap, and I actually got one of Polly's 4x5. It was a scan and reprint, but it was from one of her Type 55 portraits, and work is just so cool. That's what I love about that sort of thing. When you meet another photographer, you kind of know what goes behind the work, what they prioritize, and it's just it's so cool.
Yeah, and I don't see that much like that many people here locally in Spain. Large format's not that big here, and that's hopefully what I hope to see change in the future. Is more people are getting into it, more people shooting, and more print exchange, like you said, like changing prints, seeing paper, like that's the fun of it.
Oh, it really is.
Do you still?
Yeah, Amanda just brought up another good one in the.
No, do you still print a lot?
Yeah, I think I'm
Matt?
still here. Oh, not as I'm so guilty of it. Not as much as I need to be printing. And I was just before the live stream started. If Laura's still here in the chat, maybe it's better she's not. We were talking about how I need to get more storage for my negatives because there's just like this pile of 2020 negatives that's piling up, and I haven't system and sorted them yet. I have like a little database that has a JPEG, and I don't have like EXIF data, but like I'll just describe it really quick, the film, and I'll tie it with a scan and then like print out a label and then file them away. I have these little they're like 8x10x2 little drawers, and then I just file them away in there. So I need to get going with that again.
Yeah, I feel like I should just probably, now that I'm gonna be moving countries, so like all of the stuff I have, I'm gonna have to like box it, and I really
Hmm.
feel like that's what I should just box most of it, see what I need, and maybe sell what I don't, and like keep the 8x10, try to pursue a bit more of 8x10 work and shooting, even if it's home stuff. Like every time I see, and someone mentioned Sally Mann, like Sally Mann, the pictures of their kids and stuff like that. Like I don't understand how you can create that body of work with an 8x10, on everyday kind of thing is just incredible.
Distance, right? It's like, we see you're well, not eventually, like you're really seeing the best of the best from a photographer with a body of work like that. But how many days did you know that she had to go out and just kind of document and not get that one pivotal kind of look and print out of it? So there's a lot that goes on behind it.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. But at the end, when you only see the outcome that you get to see, you still get
Hmm.
like that idea of that every shot is good, but it's not.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, so yeah, Columbus Hog. Yeah, I really agree with you. The idea of organizing and storing your large format collection. I think it's one of those. It never gets talked about a lot, but it's important if you are creating in that medium. Like if you only shoot every couple of months, you're not going to have to worry too much about storing it. But if it's your primary way of expressing yourself, you're going to have a pile of negatives sooner than later that you're going to have to deal with and store. And everybody has their own system, but probably what opened my eyes to organizing your stuff and why it's important was, oh my gosh, this was 5 years ago now, but when I went out to have a workshop with Alan Ross in New Mexico, and he was showing me how Ansel originally would organize his stuff, which was madness, and you could never find stuff, versus when he finally started and people to help with archiving and having a system. And even though that system was kind of like pre-digital databases, how it's helped in finding a negative. So finding an original to print from could take minutes instead of days.
Yeah, I think there's that part. Like when you're shooting, you don't realize that what you're shooting. Sometimes you're just in a shooting moment and you're taking lots of pictures, be it portraits, landscapes, whatever it is. But like maybe 2 years later, you suddenly realize, oh wait, that print, like that picture I took, I want to print it. If you can't find it, it just becomes so frustrating, and you can't
Oh, for
like I
sure.
have some negatives that I should be printing for a project that I did, and I can't. I misplaced them, and they're in my
Oh,
studio, but I have probably those print file binders. I have those print
yep.
file binders that they've been made by different brands throughout the years. And I have like 20 of them, and I have gone through them 3 times, and I still can't find them. So I must have decided to grab a piece of negative and put it into a different strip of film. So I now have to go through like the system. Like if you can be organized, be organized. And even if it's not for today, it might be for tomorrow or years to come
Hmm.
to find that. And with kids, like I have 2 children, 2 daughters, like you now is the day they don't really want to hang out with me anymore. So now is when I could print those pictures when they did want to hang out with me. So now you're going to try to find them is impossible.
Oh yeah, and I think all of us, a lot of us are guilty of it with the organizing it. And for me, it always comes down to procrastinating for the better part of 2 years, and then I'll just like disappear for 3 days, figuring it out and like finding all the stuff, labeling it, getting it organized. And even then, they'll still be missing stuff. I think the one I'm worst about are my favorites, like the Polaroids, just because like
Yeah.
those have to be in the storage with the silica packet and stuff. It's
Yeah. I've been keeping like the 8x10 boxes of like film, and also the easy load and the ready load to like
hmm.
for when I peel apart, I'll keep like the peel part too sometimes and just put it in there. And those have worked pretty well for keeping them, which I should try bleaching and start to scan some of those because they do end up crystallizing and making a mess out of it.
Oh yeah, I've done a few of the removing the back of the FP100 100C. But yeah, I know what you mean with the crystallizing. That it once it gets there, it's
Yeah.
effectively.
Have you tried the new stuff, the one instant?
I have not. I did not end up backing that one, unfortunately. But the newest I've tried was the new 55.
I should send you a pack to shoot with Tariq, because Tariq loves peel apart film. I have
He's addicted.
yeah, I have some boxes that I got from the team from One Instant to do a little video, which I still have to do, but I have probably more than I can shoot myself. So I will see if I can get some of that all the way there so you guys can shoot it. It'd be fun to see like a little, it's like, let's say like a collaboration without having to see each other, considering what's going around.
Oh, for sure. Well, we'll have to repay the favor. I have some funky stuff here that I don't know what I'm ever going to do with, so maybe we can call it a trade.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's something. I have way too much that I probably will never shoot, so I'm trying to do that stuff. Someone says here, Nico says, why do you need One Instant when you can reverse RA4? That's true. When you,
I don't know. It's different. There's different processes, and even if it takes a similar amount of time, there's so much. I think instant, even when it's upwards of, I would say $30 to $40 because there is a convenience in taking the time to set something up. So it's kind of like that. As you get older, you realize that time is more important to you. Mm-hmm. And like, how much time do you want to spend setting up, tearing down, doing this, storing this, ventilating this? Like, everybody has that number, and they know you either don't know what your time's worth, and you will bend over backwards to get a look, or you'll say, no, it's cool.
Yeah.
It is what it is price-wise. I'll do it, and then like there's no cleanup, right? It's just done.
No, yeah. Well, the One Instant stuff, you kind of have to clean the rollers every shot, so there is a little bit of a cleanup.
Oh, okay.
It's it's hand assembled, so it's not so perfect. The main reason I like shooting like instant like that, I haven't tried the RA4, would be the strobe power. Like, I just don't have the strobes. Like, you guys in the US have the what is it called, strobo from or
Oh, the Speedotrons.
Those don't exist here, or if they do exist, they never sold too much. So like, you don't get that stuff for cheap anywhere. So like, I have like 400 watt second or something like that. Like, that's enough for shooting certain things. Like, I don't have the, what do you have, like 16,000 or something crazy?
I only have 6,400 here, but my buddy Steven, who I share darkroom space with, he's got like an extra 10,000, and he's got one of the heads that does 9,600 watts and one poof. That thing just terrifies.
So it just burns you like your eyelashes if you're doing those selfies you did last time.
When you pop the 900, like, you have that after him for hours, and like, you can smell all the dust because it just like gets evaporated instantly. Mm-hmm. Like. Yeah, I was reading on Speedotron's site because I was like, what did they make this for? I guess they were using it for like industrial stuff. So they would hit like a huge pulse, and it helped with imaging stuff that was like under the surface for like industrial use. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, it blew my mind that like, hey, I want that.
But I read about it being basketball. Like, they would set them in the basketball arenas.
They use it in the NBA.
Yeah, and put them on the roof, mm-hmm. and then whenever they shot, the whole stadium would be lit. So they'd be like, okay, and we're talking about probably film days where, shooting color would be like ISO 100 or slides or stuff like that. Like, They wouldn't have maybe 400 slides if possible, but like, you wouldn't be able to freeze Michael Jordan jumping, and like, they would have these massive flashes that would just burn the whole stadium with light. Then that was like, oh, that makes sense. That, I guess in Spain that wasn't that popular. I guess we have like better like soccer fields, and we, soccer is football, or I don't know which way around it's called, but we call it football in Spanish. With soccer in the US, they have the big stadium, so I guess that's what they would shoot it on. But yeah, I've never seen something like Speedotron here, and every time I see them in the US like sold for pretty cheap, it's like, I wish I could.
Oh yeah, they're basically gimme prices. It's like there is that, and I always have to remind myself that like, the larger film world doesn't necessarily have the same access. So that's another reason I think I like offering, what we kind of do on the channel here is like, I have that access, so I'm going to share it with people. I'm not going to like, there's no reason for me to like huddle it all to myself, right? Photography is like sharing and experiencing things to.
Yeah. No, like that's what I like seeing you doing stuff outside and about is like the RA4 reversal and things like that I just don't think I'll ever get into. It's kind of cool. I do wish there was more people doing large format, and landscape is great, but like some other stuff like architecture photography and things like that, but I guess it's the hassle of carrying it, the video gear and the photo gear and all that is just too much.
Oh, it definitely is. And I think I wouldn't have attempted the landscape stuff if it wasn't something I already like just know. Like so many of these places I do for the first time, they're not it's not a process that I've never done before. It's like stuff that I know like the back of my hand and I know what goes into it. So what's another tripod in a small bag? So let's just go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically. And do you enjoy landscape mostly, Matt, or is it a bit of mix of both?
I think it's a mix of both. And for a few years there, I was very like almost entirely landscape, but it was also because like I was working, I was like really, really working like over 40 hours and doing retail. And like I just wanted out of that. And I really believe in going out and like, I think the Japanese call it forest bathing. So like just being out in nature, like breathing in the tree oil and all that stuff, just being there. I think that is a relaxing bit in itself, but like I also have to be doing something. So shooting the large format landscapes was just another excuse.
No, yeah, that's nice. I remember, I'm telling you, the Barber series was amazing. Was that local to you?
So not really. It was at a time where I was actually working a job as a traveling fabric salesman. So I was going to all these little small towns and visiting their quilt shops. And all these little towns also had like bars and post out like a one room post office and like a barber shop. So a lot of them were in Ohio, but there was also some that were on their way to like Chicago and Buffalo, and that was like my territory. So kind of like that Midwest to kind of getting over east a little bit. And there are a few that I've revisited because now there's some in Columbus that I visited like 8-9 years ago, and I've redone some, and it's kind of cool because like one of my barbers that's in the original barbershop series, he's like a customer of mine now, and we see each other all the time. And hey, do you still print that, or do you still shoot those? So I want to work up the courage to do that kind of stuff again. It's like I think I did that project at the right time because there was so much I didn't know. I wasn't scared of it, and now I'm terrified to do it again because I know all the things to me that I did wrong. Like I didn't bring strobes and I didn't do this. I'm just like, hey, hold still. We got 4 seconds, like.
Yeah. And you were doing that, what was it called? Oxygen developer? Obsidian Aqua stuff.
Oh, yeah.
What was it about? Like, I always wanted to try it. I actually bought some of the ingredients to try that out.
It's basically just unrestrained PyroCat HD, or like a version of unrestrained PyroCat. But it went bad really, really quick, and you had to have like a whole bunch of like bulk potassium carbonate, I think, to like mix it up. So I kind of went back to PyroCat HD because I can mix it. I mix like 2 liters of it, and that'll get me through like 2 or 3 years at a time. And the raw components are really, really inexpensive. So
yeah,
I can just
doing
use
trays,
that.
or are you still doing like the hangers?
For X-ray film and really sensitive stuff, like so when I do X-ray or FOMA or FG, like the infrared, I'll use hangers because I don't like streaks on that stuff. And other times I'll use trays, but like, please, 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 if you're watching this and you're thinking about using pyro, do not use trays. If you do not have access to a ventilator and a good fan in your darkroom, like just don't do this in your bathroom.
Yeah.
Like, because this stuff is pesticide. It is a preservative. Preservatives like that, they harden cells. They cause damage. So please, please, please be careful.
Yeah, I've never tried any PyroCat. I do have some like people have sent me some, and I've never used it, but I've been always curious. I always use the Jobo 3005. But I heard that pyro and like air moving is not like best friends. So I don't know if people have had like success with that yet?
I have a buddy out of DC, Scott Davis.
Yep.
I took a platinum workshop with him a few years back. He uses exclusively Jobo and PyroCat, and I think the only difference there is he keeps it a little bit warmer to keep it like more active
Yeah.
during that time. And I think he'll also juice up the concentration a little bit, but he gets really, really clean results.
I'll have to talk to him. I do follow him, as I think we all kind of have, similar contacts from similar era. But yeah, Scott, I do follow, and he has some good work. Yeah, it's just something that the convenience of doing like 5 sheets in one tank and the all that has been really nice. And the tray, I've always been very scared of just like messing and getting like streaks between the sides and the center, and it just makes me panic.
Yeah.
With a sheet.
Definitely, it feels bad when like you open up. I mean, even the stuff that I just shot the other day, the portraits, there was a few of them that had some streaks because I was in a hurry. Like I didn't have time to do PyroCat because it takes too long in trays. So I just used some HC110, and that stuff, when you have a shorter developing time, just like the whole timing thing, every little thing counts, and you have to kind of change how you agitate to accommodate that faster or slower process.
Yeah, yesterday I had a workshop, and I was like, you never want to do less than 5 minutes. And the girl was like, why? I was like, because anything that you make a mistake for 5 seconds, under 5 minutes, is way worse than if you're doing 10 minutes. And she was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's say like if people have questions, let's turn it into question time, because we've already been sitting for an hour and a half, and
Oh my gosh.
2020 has had too many sitting times. So
Yes.
let's see if people have any questions. Nico here says, so when do we get a large format day, virtual or physical event? What do you think?
I'd love to have some sort of meetup or workshop day. I don't know. Like meetups are kind of cool, but I feel like there needs to be something like else behind it, something unifying it. So maybe it's like a we're all sharing our knowledge. So everybody has to bring something or do a demo or bring a print or a process. So I'm all for it. It's always fun, because I think just like going out and shooting, it's like nice, and we all like to be seen with each other. But like I know most of the large format shooters in my circles, we work better alone.
Yeah, I had that same thing happen here locally, where we did like photo walks, and it would be like walking and taking pictures is something that I can't do very well. And then at the end, it always would be the drinks, and the talking that was fun. So I ended up making meetings where we removed the walking and talking and just went straight to the bar and talk, And it was called Film and Beer, and it was like, we just want to talk. And it was like people would bring prints and, what camera they bought or what camera they're curious about, and you could take touch and stuff. And that was really fun. I think Nico's talking about more like having like a virtual large format gang, like what is it, Todd? Now I'm gonna massacre his name. Todd, he's been doing the large format with Linhoff and stuff. He wears like the cowboy hat. Todd Kroll.
Why am I blanking on his last name? Yes, yeah.
Him, and maybe having like a virtual. That'd be cool to do. Maybe like a Zoom virtual large format chat between you, him, Ben Horn, and similar people that are shooting large format online and sharing on YouTube. That'd be cool.
Oh, it definitely would be, because again, it's like whenever you meet up, or even if it's virtually, you're gonna pick up different like things the photographer does differently.
Mm-hmm. That problem I find when there's more than 2 people is that it just starts becoming like, when do you talk? Do you raise? And you've done podcasting for years, so I don't even know how you guys manage to like keep it so it's like one talks, now the other one's quiet. How do you guys do that? Which, by the way, I'm a
the snacks.
big fan of the podcast for very long.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had to represent IO Mike and the gang, like everything for teaching me how to do this kind of stuff, as well as just like opening up the world of film photography, literally. So it's just been cool to be around for so long.
Yeah. Okay, you want to read some questions?
Yeah. So let's see. Our question regarding large format lens performance. I plan to make a camera for 6x7 with shift movement and plan to use LFs because image circle will have room to move around. So on using, it's definitely possible to do that setup. But one thing I'll caution when you're doing something with higher magnification, like medium format versus large format, is large format lenses are made assuming you're going to do large format. So, and this is something that when I've been doing research for talking about depth of field and like, you know, all those other little key things that go into depth of field, made to the standard of being able to magnify a large format image, which usually doesn't need magnified as much as 35 and medium format. So if you put let's say a lens that's made for 8x10 or larger, and you're cropping in really, really, really far and seeing just a small amount of that circle in 6x7, it might actually appear softer than a picture coming out of a lens that's made for medium format or 35. So you're going to get more movements, but you're going to have typically less ability to magnify that image. So you might be disappointed if you try to get larger than 20, 30, 40 inches. So it's all about like how you plan on using it.
Yep, and that's something that I've seen with people that transition from large format lenses but use digital backs, that they found like, okay, when they're shooting those, I don't know, 35 by 60 or 35 by 45 digital backs, and they're shooting a 4x5, like the resolution, the lines per whatever it's called, is so low that they're like, you have to buy those lenses that you don't want to buy, which are usually the Digitar Apo something or Digitar, because those have like that compression of resolution in the smaller circle, so you can get bigger, you know, like sharpness and detail and all that. So yeah, that's exactly what I would have said too, with terms of like cropping like a large format circle means there's probably less quality, and that's why like a 35 millimeter lens usually has to outperform in the same square inch or millimeter than an 8x10 lens, because you're going to be enlarging or scanning that little negative into much bigger. And we have Ben Horn here asking you about large format hair care tips.
Oh my gosh, Ben Horn, I am such a huge fan. Thank you so much for stopping in the chat. That's amazing. Hair, oh yeah.
He's asking hair tips. He doesn't have much hair on himself, so I think that's just because you've been doing these live streams, like the large format, your hair would get longer by the day. And also, big fan of Ben. I think he's probably the one that's won the YouTube game, managed to do the content he loves, the way he loves it, without creating any other, like he doesn't even run any ads, like the way he's done it and shooting what he likes and the books and the prints and all these things he does is pretty amazing. Like, I'm not even a landscape photographer, but I do enjoy his stuff. And I remember seeing it back in the day when he was shooting like the 6x17 throughout the woods. And it's been pretty cool to see his path throughout all this time.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of your work, Ben. This is so cool. But this is the cool thing about the digital realm, right? Is like we're all here and like sharing different things we love about it. This is so cool. But as far as the hair goes, Ben, I don't know. I'm just kind of like going with teen hair, just lets it go out. I respect my barber enough to give him time and give him distance, so it lets my hair grow out. And then other thing is find a barber you love, take pictures of them on an 8x10. That usually helps, and then make sure you tip them heavily.
Yeah, someone's saying here, if we go, do you sell your 8x10 pictures, or is it just like a hobby?
Oh, that's a great question. I definitely sell my work. My work is very much for sale. So if you go to my site, which is just, you can go to mylastname.com, so marrash.com, a little tab that says, I have everything up there, but I have some of the more popular ones that are requested available as like inkjet prints, which are a little bit cheaper. And then I also have like contact prints, which are a little more expensive because I have to fetch the negative and clean it up and set up the darkroom. So there's a difference in price there, but I'm not selling them like museum edition prints. They're overall pretty affordable for what you're getting, and consider all of this work that goes into it just for fun. Like this is not my mainstay.
Yeah, I think I do sell some work, like darkroom work, but I never consider my work to be like that good that I can sell it like for a premium. And it's like a little nice thing to do. And 8x10, I think I've never actually been doing contact prints to sell. So I wouldn't say I've sold any 8x10s. But yeah, like I totally understand when you say like when you do contact prints, like finding them. I usually do series, like I'll do 10 and that's it. Like I won't print that negative unless it sells very well and they're like, oh, maybe I'll print that one again. But yeah, it's not a way to make a living, but it does help, like you said in your previous live stream. It helps keeps the camera rolling, the lights, the microphones, all these things. Yep. It does give you a good excuse. Plus, it makes a great excuse to go out and shoot more if you see people are buying your prints.
Absolutely. And I think I was talking with a digital shooter yesterday, one of my customers. They were asking about, oh, isn't it great when somebody like buys a print? And I think that's really what kind of like put me down this path permanently. One of my first shows was a series of my barbershop pictures. And one of the barbershops I went to was the Barber College in Cleveland. And I was displaying them in a nearby Cleveland neighborhood at this awesome all analog store. So they sold like film and everything in this old bar in Tremont. And I had the gallery show there. The president of the Barber College came and he loved the pictures. He knew I had taken like a picture of that I was like Barber College shooting like his students and like the layout of the place. And he loved it so much, he literally bought out the show. Like I'm still chasing the high of having my first show sell out. And if you sell one print or show somebody, shows you they love your work like that, that's the confidence booster that'll just keep you going.
Yeah, I was just going to check out. I think I'm going to go ahead and buy a print of your barbershops. Not live streaming, but I'm going to see if I can buy one. See if I find one. Oh, I do like this one. So I'll buy a print once we finish the live stream. I was about to buy a new camera, so I guess I'd rather buy a print if I can.
Oh, I don't think a print is near as much as a camera, so you're good to go.
Yeah, I'm good to go. That's the problem when you have a lot of time and you're like sitting at home watching other people on YouTube. And that's the thing I find on YouTube is you end up watching, large format gear and suddenly you're watching some Gerald and Dunn video and you're like, why am I looking at a Sony something? Yep. I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah, doing more video and talking about it has really just like, people are like, do you have gas? I'm like, well, not for large format. I got to make the channel look good.
Yeah. Yep. That's the rabbit hole I went into when I started the YouTube. Is like, okay, at first I thought it was easy, wasn't that easy, and then you start getting into like, oh wait, that camera will work better. Maybe I do a second angle. Maybe I do. It's funny, but yeah, I'll buy one of your prints to support, which I think everybody should.
Oh, very much appreciated.
Get you going with shooting. I'll wait to ship it till the Christmas holidays are over because I think it'll be better for everybody. But I will see if I can get this one. But yeah, and I don't know if anybody has a lot more questions. We're like at an hour 43. So let's give it a couple more minutes. And if not, I think we can all go spend Sunday doing something a bit more Sunday-like.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. I'll ask you, Nico. Did anything cool, film or otherwise related for the holidays?
You mean like gift wise?
Yeah.
I got a book from you probably know him, Urs Bernhardt or something like that. I'm killing his name.
You got something from Urs?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love his stuff. I mean, he's like the glasses,
yeah,
right? Like as soon as you hear his name, I see the glasses.
Thick glasses. Yeah, I met him at Photokina in 2016 with Arca Swiss. Awesome. He was there like a counselor kind of guy. He loves, shoots Arca Swiss cameras. He has a Can-Am too right now. He's shooting mostly. And he came out with a photo book like 2 years ago, and I never bought it. And I always regret this kind of stuff that you don't buy art from people you admire. So this Christmas, my wife was telling me like, well, okay, you got to choose a gift. I'm like, okay, what do I want? Like, we buy everything we want in terms of gear, and I probably have way more than I need. And I was like, I could buy a book from a friend. So I was like, let me find him. And my wife bought the book. And it was funny because he was really sweet through the emails with my wife. And he wrote my wife at the end, like, how did he find me? Because of course it wasn't Nico Yacera buying it. It was my wife. And he was like, oh, it's my husband, like, wanted your work. So that's what I got, basically, this Christmas.
That's awesome.
And I try not to spend too much because I don't think I need anything. So a photo book was a great chance. And I'll probably get this print part as, like, part of the Christmas vibe. What did you get?
So my fiance surprised me with a piece of handmade art. She is really wowed me. She's getting back into woodblock printing, so she has started making a 19-inch square woodblock print, and we're actually going to go out because she needs like some ink and some new carving tools. So we're going to go help make that happen. But it's cool. She got that. But then film photography related, we haven't shouted out, so I'm going to shout it out now. We both belong to this Discord server called Restore from Backup. Yep. And the community on there is really passionate, kind of skews to like younger folks. Devin, one of the mods on there, invited me in, and it's a really cool community and lots of good feedback. And there's some good YouTubers in there too. They had a Secret Santa exchange, and the guy that got me for Secret that you can put it in this little suggestion, like, what do you want? And I was like, anything but APS. I'll be fine. So as a joke, he sent me an APS disposable camera, a little patch for APS note. But then also in the box, I thought it was just like a fake big box, as just like a, like a throw off, like, here's all this tiny stuff. But then I opened up the other part of the box, and he literally sent me a box of 809, like Polaroid 809. And
damn.
Yeah, I'm still floored because like, so for folks at home, Polaroid 809 is the OG. It's the original Polaroid material, and that stuff when it was new was $225, but now it's going anywhere between like seriously like 500.
Oh, I lost you there. Oh, lost it. Wait a sec. No.
Is the Polaroid 8x10. It's the look.
Matt, we lost you.
Oh no.
Yeah, we lost. Well, I lost you at least after the Polaroid 809, and you were saying it goes from 225 to something.
Oh yeah, it started at 225, but now it's like 500 to $1,000. So it's crazy, and I don't know, but I'm gonna have to do something special with it because it's my favorite film ever.
I think getting that as a Secret Santa is pretty great gift, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can't win more than that on a 8x10 shooter, give him a box of that, especially if you have the Polaroid processor, which are getting rare to find.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think we have, someone's asking about the Intrepid 4x5 as a secondary camera beside the CNR Norma. How are they to use? You had one that you gave away. I think a viewer gave you one.
Yes, a huge shout out to the guy that donated that. That was just insane. That was a Mark II, and even that, I heard, from each version it got more and more stable. But the version 2 felt really solid in my hands. I've seen a version 4. I haven't shot with one, but for the 4x5s, those are rock solid. If you want to consider an 8x10 Intrepid, definitely watch Ben Horn's video about it on kind of getting it rigged up and a little bit more stable. But those are awesome.
Yeah, I have the 4x5 Mark IV Black Edition here, which Intrepid sent, and it's pretty sturdy, I have to say. It's improved quite a bit. Like you said, like each version since version 1, 2, 3, 4 have been getting better and better. I was commenting this with a friend today, and it was like, I wish Intrepid made cameras they're very inexpensive, but like the next level up, let's say Chamonix, Shenhao, let's say are $1,000. Like, I wish there were a bit more middle between their current pricing and the Chamonix or like $1,000 pricing. And they improved a couple things, which I think are not that are bad, but I would like to see in a better way. Because when you're getting into large format, and you've made a video on recommending cameras, like the Graflex cameras, the secondhand cameras are so good still to this day. Then like, I wish there would be a little closer loop when you're getting into 4x5, especially if you're not a newbie, totally get an Intrepid if you want something lightweight to carry around. But if you're new, like you said, watch Ben Horn's videos on getting it set up with a little tweaks here and there that will make your experience a little better. And I think anyone that's made a couple videos on Intrepid, like showing all the little tweaks, is important to know. Like, be careful, there's no zeroing position, blah, 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 like that kind of stuff which we take as granted using CNR and stuff like premium gear, that you forget that you have to be careful. And you do it by instinct, but someone new might not.
Oh, exactly. And, I was really intrigued when I saw Intrepid was like, we're making a special one-of hardwood camera that we're giving away. And I look at that and I'm like, no, just start making only those.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched the news, but I was like, Intrepid made the camera we all want, and they only made one. It's like, come on, guys, make that. Like, we want a bit.
Let's keep doing it.
Make a little one, like a bump up. Like I said, they don't have to be like titanium Italian Ghibellini stuff, and they don't need to be like the like low level. They gotta be in the middle point there. Let's hope it works out for them too, because with this whole Brexit deal, I think they're having quite a bit of issues with like shipping, people canceling because of not knowing if there's going to be, taxes between Europe and the UK. So I hope they do well. Max, I went over and met him in person in the UK and had a great weekend over when he was still probably operation year number 2 or something like that. And it was amazing. So yeah, I think anything else you want to add, Matt, that you think we should add? And if not, we can call it a day.
No, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining us on this Sunday, geeking out. Like you titled it perfectly, large format geekery. That's what it is. It's a conversation we probably both would have had off the air anyway, but everybody else gets to see it and kind of chime in.
Well, thanks, Matt, for joining me. Hopefully